All right, we are live. Um, I'd like to welcome everybody who is joining us on our Facebook Live event. We are marketing for ECPs, and we decided that, hey, we have some time at home. What a great opportunity it is for us to put together a webinar series to just kind of talk about what we do and things that we can do to help support the industry. And so we decided to launch this webinar series. There's going to be 8 in a row. This is our first one. It is called Build a Strong Social Media Presence Post COVID-19. And when our friends at Johnson & Johnson Vision heard about our webinar, they contacted us right away and said, how do we support, how do we collaborate on this? They're looking at ways at helping their clients as well. And so we're very happy and proud to be co-sponsoring this with Johnson & Johnson Vision. I'd like to do a quick intro. And so I'm going to introduce my team that's on the webinar with me. And I am asking them as well to talk about one positive thing that they have either they've learned to do or something they have more time on just being at home during this quarantine. So Tyler, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it's just I've done a lot more puzzles than I've ever done before. So I mean, I can't go anywhere, but I can build puzzles of the places that I want to go. So that's fun.
Cool. And what's your role with Marketing for ECPs?
Yeah, so I am the social media lead at Marketing for ECPs. And what we wanted to do when we created this product was create a real authentic and organic way for ECPs to share their business with potential patients in a way that's kind of a more behind the scenes look, something that's more organic and can really start to tell your story.
Thank you. And Jill.
Hey, I'm a marketing director at Marketing for ECPs, and outside of my full-time position, I actually run a food blog, and it got its beginnings on social media. So through that and through my social media platforms, I was able to get myself on the Food Network and on MasterChef. So I fully believe in the power of social media, and I'm a huge proponent of how it can do wonders for your business and for your brand. And when it comes to something that was able to do during this kind of strange time, I actually decided to hunker down in quarantine with a friend, and I picked up my belongings and I moved out to beautiful Revelstoke. So I at least am hanging in a really pristine setting.
Amazing. You're in the mountains. It's
yeah,
great.
It's awesome.
And for those that don't know, my name is Kevin Wilhelm. I am the president and co-founder of Marketing for ECPs. And I'll kind of promote Jill a little bit here. She's also a self-published author for her own cookbook. And so she brought it out, I think, in November, December. So what I've been able to do in this quarantine time is actually create a few of those recipes. So thank you for that, Jill. And again, thank you to Johnson & Johnson for their support. I do want to announce a social media contest. So as this is a social media webinar, we sort of have a contest for you. Number one is if you have any great social media ideas and you would like to share them, please do so in the comments. And at the end of this webinar, Tyler will pick one, Jill will pick one, and I will pick one. And you will all receive a $100 Amazon gift card that we will send to you later today. So make sure you share lots of great social media content so that your peers can see all the great things that you guys are doing as well. As this is also live on Facebook, if you wouldn't mind hitting like or share and possibly tagging a colleague or someone you know that would benefit from this, that would be fantastic. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to start with you, Ty, on obviously we are in a new sort of just environment with the COVID crisis. So the question I have for you to start is just how can people on this webinar, how can they navigate sort of the new world that we're in?
Yeah, so I got kind of a slide to show that here. Really, it's about riding a very fine line right now. It's about finding the balance of recognizing that there's something going on, but not leaning too far to one side that you're ignoring the situation, or going too far to the other side that it's all you talk about, or you come across like you're using the situation to promote yourself. So you want to avoid making light of the situation and not speaking about it at all, or posting the kinds of photos that include large groups of people, or things that we can't really do right now anyway. So the better side to go is recognizing what's going on, letting your patients and your clients know that that you see that this is affecting you and that this is affecting them, and what you can do to help. So it's even a really great opportunity. I'm sure people have heard the term support local a lot, and a lot more recently. It's a great opportunity to talk about what's going on in your community. How can you help? How are you helping? How can your patients and clients help? It's really just recognizing that, and then riding the fine line and realizing that people are in a real tough spot right now, and you want to do what you can to talk about your business without seeming like you're over promoting it.
Yeah, that's great. Jill, do we have any examples right now of ones that?
Really, what you always want to focus on when we're talking about social media is I want to always know what's relevant. You want to be sure that you're creating content that people care about and are interested in. So one way to understand how people are interacting online is to use some social listening tools. So that is my first tip is, one, you can just spend more time on social media and you can take a look around and see what people are talking about. But you can use tools such as setting up Google Alerts, or you can use something called TweetDeck. It's actually free and it's integrated with Twitter, and you can monitor what people are saying. So you can put in a word like COVID-19, and you can actually target it to your city or your town, and you can monitor and see what people are saying specifically about the subject. That way, knowing more of what's going online, you can actually tailor your content to ensure that you are responding to people and you are fully aware of the situation.
Yeah, that's great. Ty, you've put up here a few examples. Did you mind touching on these that you kind of want to highlight for people?
Yeah, I wanted to flip over to these quickly just to show some ideas of what you as a company can do. Now, these are some, the companies that I'm showing are a little bit larger so that they have some more opportunities that might be available to them. But the first one that I wanted to touch on was Panda Express. So a couple of weeks ago when this was all starting, they recognized the fact that times are a bit financially tight for people. They're watching their money, maybe not eating out as much. So what they did was introduce a new deal, like they might have in any standard time, but in this one, they made a note saying from our family to yours. So they recognize that that families are looking for better deals so that they can still enjoy some of the fun things in life, like eating out, but also just taking that second to recognize things are different in the world right now without being too heavy on that. So they really brought a positive spin and something that they can do to offer and help. More recently, they actually just announced that they've reduced the items on their menu to help out with their staff that are working there, manage with the new adjustments to the normal course of business, such as having to adapt to more of a curbside pickup drive-through service. But more into the realm of ECPs, Oakley just announced earlier this week that they are going to switch a portion of their production to creating face shields for frontline workers. So this is it's an amazing thing that a lot of companies are starting to do in terms of creating masks or creating these protective masks. It's not something that maybe everyone can do that aren't as large as Oakley, but it really shows the power of presenting yourself during this time because they got a great feedback from this. And it's just a really great gesture and something that can be so well promoted on social media or online for companies like Oakley.
Love it. And I do want to say as well to everybody watching, please keep the comments coming and post questions. We do have a Q&A period at the end that we are going to get to, but both Tyler and Jill and I are committed to answering each and every question that you have. So if we don't get to a live answer today, we will respond in the comments with answers. Ty, I know you kind of showed some big examples here. I'd like to share a little bit of a local eye care business and what they're doing right now to sort of capitalize on this. And this comes from a Toronto optometrist, CNBC. This is their most recent grid on Instagram. And you can see two posts specifically I'd like to highlight. One, the online store. Well, they sort of did a pivot, and I think that they launched an online store last year selling drops, selling contact lenses, things like that. Now is a great time to promote the online store. If you're doing telemedicine, it's also a great time to do that. And then the one below that, you can see there's a post regarding managing screen time. It's a fantastic strategy right now to really focus in on relevant content that parents and people are wanting to and actually going to be utilizing in their homes. So things that they can do for eye health, for overall health, just engaging things they can do with their kids and family. All of those are great ideas for posts that we are seeing, create great traction. So, Jill, a question I have is, why should people even want to invest in creating social media right now? Like, what's the opportunity, I guess, that stands there for them?
Well, one of the first things is realizing how much time people spend on social media as is. So, if you were to guess, the average American before all of this happened spent approximately 53 minutes a day on Instagram. And now that everybody is stuck in their homes, they're in front of their devices, they're on their computers, from the stats that I've read, social media time has increased approximately 40% across the board. So the opportunity is there. People are looking for content to consume. And why not take this extra time that you might have now that you're not seeing patients, perhaps, to actually start to craft your strategy and get yourself in front of everybody. And even on that, that kind of makes me think of a good content idea. If everybody's spending so much time on their screens, maybe they're suffering from digital eye strain. That might be something you want to talk about. So keeping it relevant to what is happening right now is very important. And there's just so many more eyeballs on their screens than ever before.
Yeah, and I think I'd be a little remiss if I didn't give a little bit of a shout out to our sponsor, J&J here, that both their J&J Vision Pro website and the AccuViewLibrary.ca has some pre-created posts that you can log into, grab. They talk about screen time. They talk about things that you can do at home. We're noticing a lot of clients are grabbing those and using those. We also have our own social media board with many different posts that you can use. So that's great. Ty, do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of the research side of what people are doing on Instagram as well?
Yeah, so a big misconception about social media that's been around for a long time, and I believe it's one of the reasons that still there are people who have resisted hopping onto social media, is that they view it as more of a personal thing between friends and family, sharing photos or statuses. Don't be fooled. Social media is a research tool, and it's becoming more and more all the time. As you can see this stat on there, 83% of Instagrammers say they discover new products and services on Instagram. So that can include potentially people are going to your website and then checking up on your social media to kind of do a little bit further research into your product or your service before choosing to go with you. Or they're finding you through hashtags or through search or through people that their followers or that the people that they follow are mentioning. So it really is a terrific research tool and essential for businesses to be on there to keep promoting online.
Yeah, and Jill, you mentioned earlier, like just the amount of time spent on Instagram has increased. Just think about what people are doing. They're forced in their homes, they're sitting with their families, they're on their devices more than ever before. But the other thing we're seeing is that so many brands and companies are pulling back on advertising. And so there's actually a larger audience with less competitors. So, what an opportunity right now for people to be creating content and possibly boosting things and letting your local prospective patient and customer base know about you. And I think, we also want to be careful. This webinar isn't just for the eye care business. It's also for all the suppliers online as well, because this is a great time to be reaching on a business to business standpoint, your audience, because a lot of your customers are following your companies online just to make sure they're aware with what's happening with products. And so your customers, the eye care doctors and opticians that are online right now, they're researching you as well at this time. Jill, do you mind going into a little bit of the execution phase? Okay, so we know people are online. We know they're spending more time there. We know that they're making their buying decisions off that. Can you go walk us through a little bit of how to actually start this?
Yeah. Well, another reason, kind of a thing that you can do, and I touched on this earlier, is a lot of social media. What you need to really do right now is go into the planning phase. If you have time and you're cooped up, you might as well take this time to really start to formulate your social media strategy and understand why you're on there to begin with, and then how to execute it. So now is a really good time to plan for not only the next month or two during this COVID situation, but really understand and prepare for when you're ready to open your doors. You already have everything laid out and ready to rock. So I want to walk you through really some good tips on how to prepare yourself for the next few months and to make sure you have all of the content ready to go.
Now,
So,
this is typically like an 8-hour course though that we run, right?
yeah.
So we're not going through all of that. We're going to go through high level, kind of speed through some of these, but
Exactly.
these are the 10. We're not going to go into depth, but yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, kind of the first step that you always have to think about is, why am I on here? What am I doing? And what are my expectations? What am I going to get out of this? So, what I want to tell you right now is, if you think you're going to set up an Instagram account, post for a couple months, and your business is going to be transformed overnight, that's not realistic. That's not really
What?
what's going to happen. I know, Kevin.
I thought that's what this whole thing was.
I know. It's not what's going to happen. This is a long-term strategy. People are using it as a research tool. It's really meant to build brand awareness. So just understand that that has to be kind of your overall goal of being on social media. And I have up here defining your purpose. So what are you going to do when you're on social media? So is your purpose to entertain? You have to realize why other people are on social media. A lot of them want to be entertained. When I would start to think about this for your business, you might want to choose this option if your business you always get told you've got a great company culture or your staff is amazing. You might fall right into that category right away. You might also want to go on social media with the overall purpose of engaging. And that might be a better fit for you if you're already very involved with your community. People know you, they know your business, and that might be a better fit for you in that instance. Another really, really good purpose of being on Instagram or any social media platform could be to educate. A lot of you have a lot of background and a lot of education and a lot of knowledge that you can share with people. So why not spread that knowledge and help people out? This might be a really good fit if you're focusing perhaps on a medical niche. What you're really going to find a lot of the time is you're going to maybe say to me, well, I fit in all of those categories, and absolutely you're going to pull a little bit from everything, but I want you to try to narrow your focus a little bit and choose one that fits with you the best.
Cool. Sounds great.
So really the next step, once you've figured out what your purpose is, you really, really want to figure out who you're speaking to. So this is relevant in any type of marketing. This isn't necessarily just for social media marketing, but who are you talking to? Because if you're talking to everybody, you're really talking to no one at all. You want to make sure that your message is as targeted as possible. So you take the step to actually create what we call a client persona or an avatar. So there's a few different things that actually go into that. We've got up here, you've got to think about demographics, psychographics, and buying behavior. So demographics can be things like, is this person, is my ideal customer? How old are they? Are they male or female? What's their income and education? When you go a little bit deeper into psychographics, this is what I want you to think a little bit outside of the box, is what are their interests? I'm going to keep going back to this. You want to be posting stuff that people are interested in. So when it comes to your client persona, what do they value? What are their opinions? What are their attitudes? And then on top of that, we want to talk a little bit and understand their buying behavior. So when we get into buying behavior, we want to kind of think about things like, do these people look for a deal? Do they love designer brands? The more information that we can get and that we can kind of hone in on to craft our message, the more successful we're going to be on social media.
So, Jill, a question I have is, a lot of times we have clients that say, social media is not for me. My client base is, and they're seniors. I have a ton of seniors. Is the answer here just like use Instagram to broaden that customer base, so your patient base, so you can start attracting some of those 20 to 30-year-olds, the millennials and the families that are there? Is that sort of the idea here, is identify who the target demographic is, the person you want in, and then create content for them?
Exactly. It doesn't necessarily need to be who you're seeing today. This is for the people you're trying to attract, and the best people, and who you actually serve the best. Who are your services? Who do you actually, who leaves the most happy with you and your business when they leave out and walk out the door? So I would say there's so much opportunity. You want to kind of grab new people, and they might be a little bit younger of a demographic. I've also never actually had anybody tell me, I only see seniors and that is it. So that's a little bit of a stretch, Kevin.
I love that you just feel so comfortable, Jill. I love it. Cool. Let's keep going.
All right. So now that we've really kind of figured out why we're on social media and who we're speaking to, let's really just go back to the basics. This is going to be really quick. One of the things you need to make sure that is set up is that your business is set up as a business profile on Instagram. So really make sure that you follow those steps. You can actually just check online, and you can just do a quick Google search of how to set up my page as a business profile on Instagram, and make sure you do that, because it will actually unlock some features that we're going to talk about a little bit later that you'll be able to take advantage of only if you have a business account. So make sure you do that. You'll be able to see kind of analytics, and you'll be able to use some third-party tools. So very important that you do that.
And Ty, you were telling me the other day that just by having a business account, the scheduling apps and things, that's the only way you can actually use them is if you do have a business account, right?
Yeah, it's a requirement for most of them. And it's like Jill said, it's just better to start off with that. It allows you to have so many more features that are more beneficial for patients and clients to find you that way. But yeah, pretty essential to start off that way. Definitely helps with the analytics tracking, which can be really helpful as you get more into it down the road.
Great, thanks.
So I'll actually hop into the next part here. Instagram is a very visual platform. So ensuring that you've created a great grid is essential for building a profile that's really going to get people engaged. And so when I say grid, what I'm referring to is the first 9 to 12 photos that a social media user will see when they enter your profile. And so it's really important that you take the time to plan out and organize what photos are going up and when they're going up, because the order that Instagram puts them up on your profile, it'll determine just the overall look and feel that people get when they come and check out your company's page. Think of it as an extension of your brand and an extension of your website. The more organized your profile is and the more time you put into it, the more your clients are going to view that as, wow, this company really took the time to put some time into their online marketing efforts. They understand this. They're up on their online marketing game. It's super essential that you take the time to plan out a grid like this.
And Ty, just I want to jump in here, and this is a great slide to stay at. What I've noticed personally, just by paying attention to how my wife interacts online and friends, we're making buying decisions off of the Instagram grid, aren't we? Like when we're deciding a practice and who we sort of relate to from a brand perspective, part of that process is clicking into their Instagram or doing a quick search on Instagram, and we make a snap 3-second judgment based on what it looks like. So if we go to the next slide that you had there, you see different grids, and you can instantly form an opinion about, am I going to do business with this company? And that's more important than just the engagement and the likes and the shares of each individual post. now we're seeing the overall grid is really, and you just said, is an extension of your brand. Is that kind of what you're meaning on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of circling back to what Jill said at the beginning, it's a long-term branding play. This is here to create those first impressions. So when people are finding you, whether they're finding you through your website and coming to social media, or whether they're finding you straight through social media, it's important when they get there, they're seeing something that you feel represents your brand. And that's where we get to when we're creating a grid. We want to make sure that what we're choosing to put on there isn't just what we think is going to look good, but what we think is going to look good and represent who you are. Images do a lot to say what you're trying to present about your company, whether that be the content of the images, the colors of the images, and the way that they're organized. Yeah, it's super important as that first impression, for sure.
Cool. And I do want to tease a little bit and jump in here on two things. One is I did put up, we have a social media contest. So if you're seeing all these amazing ideas come through, thank you guys for sharing them. We are going to pull 3 winners to do a $100 gift card on Amazon at the end. So continue to do that. And we're also going to tease a new social media product that we're going to launch with at the end of this month. So thank you for that, Ty.
Awesome. So yeah, just continuing on the note of that grid. If you're stuck in trying to figure out where you start, what that means to create a grid that represents you, look to your logo, look to your website, chat with the other owners of your practices and your companies, and even chat with the staff who work there. Get a sense of who your company is, who they feel it is, and see how you can start representing that in terms of using your brand colors to select images or the content of those images. It's a really great spot to start creating a really unique brand to you and something that really represents your company.
Great.
All right. So we've touched a little bit about why are you on Instagram. We've kind of dove in a little bit to figure out what we want our brand to look like. Let's really think about the actual meat and potatoes here. So the content, what are we going to say? What I've done here is I want you to figure out what your content pillars are going to be. And this is going to help inform your strategy. This is going to help you so much with planning, and it's going to keep you aligned. I think what happens a lot of the time when you start just posting on social media, you forget your purpose. Why are you on there, and what are you trying to say? So that's really why we're getting these content pillars here. A content pillar is really just a core topic or theme of your business, and it's always going to go back and be related to your purpose. So I recommend to choose about 3 to 5 content pillars, and then try to stick to them when you're creating your content and you're creating your posts that go out. So I've got a few examples of what that might look like. So if I go to the next slide, we'll actually see an example of if your purpose was to educate. So I wanted to give a little bit of examples into what the content pillars could be if you wanted to educate potential patients or potential clients. So maybe a pillar of content is going to be some new technology that you brought in. You want to highlight, you want to educate people about what this technology does and why it matters to them. You might want, maybe you're focusing on dry eye education. That will be another content pillar because you really want to build that portion of your business. You're going to focus in on that. You might want some eye health facts in there. Again, it's bringing you credibility. You know what you're talking about. You're helping people and educating. And maybe you want to give a staff highlight as well. So these are examples. If you chose the education route when we went back to your purpose, these could be examples of content pillars that you choose. If you actually chose, hey, I want to either engage or I want to entertain, and that was your purpose online, these could be some potential content pillars that you decide to craft your content around. So I have on here an optical dispensary focus. You could have a lot of fun with this. So I actually have this idea up here. This was also from CNBC, and they did a really fun staff highlight where they did a throwback Thursday, and they actually had their staff members wearing ridiculous glasses from years and years ago, and they posted that as a highlight. So that's definitely going to help get a lot of engagement on social media. It's a perfect type of content to put up there. I have sales and promotion, so perhaps perhaps you have a trunk show and you've got a great rep that's coming into the practice and they have a lot to say. Maybe you want to put them on there. And then I have an example of humorous eye-related quotes. So you're on there, you're trying to entertain, you're trying to engage, you're trying to be lighthearted and show off your culture and show off who you are as a business and a business owner and what your staff is all about.
An idea or an example of this doesn't come from this industry, but the dental industry. If anyone has ever seen this, go on YouTube, type in the singing dentist, and you'll just be sucked into a vortex for an hour watching the dentist do the words to very popular songs. And he has crazy eyebrow movement, but what a great way to create a engaging and entertaining way to promote himself. So I highly recommend anyone to go on and see that as an example.
All right, great. So next is, now that you kind of have a clear understanding of the content you want to post, this really comes to one of the more difficult parts. Is you can either choose to create your own content or you can curate content. And this is an option that's available that I want to make sure that you understand you can do and is totally okay. Content creation is what takes so long here. So when I'm saying content creation, I mean taking your own photos, editing them, doing graphics, taking videos. I think that the more original content you can create, the better, but you don't necessarily always have to use original content. You can curate content. So that means reusing other people's content. A lot of brands have actually made that very easy for you. You can go check out the AccuView library, for example, and they have posts that they've spent so much time thinking about already and are very professional that you can actually use. You can just download and you can use on your own platforms. A lot of big brands do this, and it's totally okay as long as you give the person credit. So I definitely recommend, when you think about it, a lot of big brands, spend thousands of dollars on professional photo shoots and graphic design and all of that. So take advantage and sprinkle some curated content into your strategy.
Great.
So the next kind of thing is, I'm not going to dive too deep into this. Again, we don't have as much time as I could drone on and on and on about taking photos here. The point that I really want to make is Instagram is a very visual platform. So you want to make sure that you're taking good quality photos and you're posting good quality content. It matters. You're not going to get a lot of really great engagement off of a not so good grainy photo taken on a very old phone. So it is about quality over quantity. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need a relatively new smartphone and some good lighting, and you're kind of off to the races.
Yeah, you can buy like a kit right on Amazon for just a little bit of money. You can get a light box, you can get a tripod, you can get all that, because we did a course at Vision Expo last year, and you guys went and bought all that. And how much was that for just a light box kit?
$40, I think,
Yeah.
by the time it gets to you. You don't even need that though. Really what you need is a good space with natural light. So not direct sunlight, but a lot of natural light is really where you're going to have your best results. And a lot of this is practice. You're going to notice you're going to get better and better at this over time. When you start, you think you're doing great, and you look back at your progression, it's really kind of crazy how much better you get over time. So I also encourage, at any point, if you have someone already in your practice, a staff member that is a little bit more artistic and creative, they might want to take the lead on this. And you can kind of help them to guide them with the strategy, which is what we're giving you here, is those tips and those tricks and those tools. And you can give that to them with the messaging. They can do a lot of this stuff for you, and then you can review it before it goes out and make sure you have your stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, and it's important to not get too scared of the concept of editing. If you have Photoshop or if you have knowledge of Photoshop, or someone at your company who does, that's terrific. But there's some great other applications like Canva that can allow some pretty easy editing that can help just increase the professional look of the content that you're putting out.
Yeah, what I'd also like to mention really quickly too is There is times where it is absolutely appropriate to take some maybe not as good quality videos kind of off the cuff. Put those in your story. That's what that feature is there for, just for some really authentic engagement. And you can actually save them into your highlights so people get to see who you are and interact with you in a more natural way. And you can worry a little bit less about how professional it looks. That's a good place to kind of play around.
Yeah.
Cool. We're getting a lot of questions and kind of comments about hashtags, which is a great segue to our next slide. So, you know, how do we use hashtags? What is a hashtag? How do we use it? How do we take advantage of it?
Yeah. So, you know, hashtags is it's an interesting one, and with algorithms changing all the time, what we're realizing right now is that a pretty good amount of hashtags to use is between 9 and 12 hashtags. And what a hashtag will do when you put it in the comments of your photos is it'll help group your photo into whatever the content of that hashtag is. So if you know that your target audience is going to be interacting or searching for specific topics, it's great to use those type of hashtags to get your content directly in front of them. So when choosing a hashtag, you'll actually see the amount of photos that have in the lifetime of Instagram that have used that hashtag before. So I kind of like to have in my head a kind of a 250 rule. And what I mean by that is if a hashtag has only been used 250 times, it's likely either a new hashtag or likely a very unpopular one. And at that point, not a lot of people are probably going to even be looking for it in that grouping. So it's not worth it to include it in that 9 to 12. Whereas on the other side, the next 250 is 250,000. So if you consider how many times how frequently photos have to use that hashtag to get up to 250,000 times that it's been used, you consider the fact that your photo is not going to last very long in that grouping because it's being filtered through with new photos that use the same hashtag. And it's just not going to get you the relevancy in there unless yours becomes one of the most popular posts. But if photos are being tagged with that and using that hashtag that often, it's very unlikely that you're going to see it. That kind of transitions into the next slide here. So I wanted to give an example of if you were to use the same photo and perhaps even the same caption, but two very different types of hashtag strategies, you're going to see very different results. So on the left, you're going to see the 25 most popular hashtags on Instagram. That includes love, beautiful, throwback Thursday, like for like. That is going to get probably a fair amount of impressions. You're going to put your photo and your content in front of a lot of eyes. Problem is, you're not going to be able to control what eyes that's going in front of. So that could be people from all over the world on Instagram taking a look and seeing that. And chances are they aren't coming to your practice or your storefront or buying your products if they're living in a completely different continent. So what we want to do, and I use the example if it were an eye care company in Calgary, using geotags and dropping in location-based hashtags, it puts it in front of your relevant audience, because we know that the only people who are going to be searching for hashtag YYC optometry are people in Calgary who are looking for optometry services. So it puts you in front of the right people. What I like to say is that being put in front of 1,000 people who aren't as valuable is going to be way less impactful to your business than being put in front of 10 people who could come in and actually use your business.
Yeah. So don't be confused by thinking that just because you have more impressions or more likes that you're doing a better job. You have to think a little bit more critically about the people that are actually seeing it, and are they actually going to translate and bring value to your business?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And then I know we skipped over the captions. Can we just talk on that as well, in terms of what are some just tips you have on making sure the captions are are useful?
On the same note than when we were talking about the grid and selecting a photo that represents your business, you want to make sure that the captions are coming out in your voice, a voice that represents who you are as a company. And that can be anything from the slang that you use in your language maybe how long the captions are. You don't want to make them too long. You want people to be able to come in, get their information, and understand what you want them to do. But that'll depend on who you are or what your voice is. If you're a storyteller, maybe those captions are going to be a lot longer. And you want to make sure that with punctuation, with kind of the tone that you're putting through there, that you're representing your voice. And the reason it's important to kind of get this set in stone before you start is if you have multiple people running your social media, you want to make sure that that voice is always coming across consistent. It's a lot easier than you might think to pick out the companies that have multiple people posting on their social media at different times. So making sure you have an established voice before you start is very key to continuing to get that correct message across and really represent your brand right.
So how would you suggest a business owner go about and do that? Is that they're writing it the first time and they do a staff training? Are they putting it into sort of a training manual? How do we establish what the tone of voice should be and making sure that everybody is compliant to that?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. Actually sitting down with your staff and communicating that if there's going to be multiple people running the account. But it's really important to gauge the opinions of multiple people at the company, because you'd be amazed at the different ways and the different adjectives that people might use, whether it be the owner or someone working at the front desk, on what their company is. Like if they had to define their company as a person, that's something that I like to ask my clients when we're trying to come up with a social strategy. Get the opinions of lots of people in your company, really get a sense of what your voice is, who your persona is, and then make a really clear, concise way to communicate that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So right now we have come, it's funny. I talked to a ton of practice owners and business owners, and while we're all at home, and some people have more time than others, but right now we do know that we're not practicing. We're not in chairs. We're not seeing patients. We're not seeing customers. And for the suppliers we're not at trade shows. We're just at home. So what a great opportunity to take advantage of pre-creating some of this content and this strategy. And so when we talk about scheduling this content out, can you talk a little bit about some of the tools that can help? So if we sit down and create, the next, 2 months worth of social media, how do these tools help us?
Yeah, so these are great because it allows you to not only set out your grid, but and when posts are going out, so they go out in the order that you want them to. But these are also great tools just to plan out the dates and the times, and also be able to look into the analytics of when is the best time to be posting. You'll hear a term, optimum time, and that's something that through the analytics that these types of programs have. They recognize when is the best time of day and when is the best day to be posting for your specific audience. So tools like Hootsuite and Sprout Social are really great for doing that. And like you mentioned, in this downtime right now, when we have a little bit more time to plan out what the future looks like, being able to get these posts in now so that when it does get busy, you still have consistent content coming out. Super key to maintain, because people want to know that if you can do it now, that's great. But when things get busy, are you still committed to communicating with your clients on social media and in this platform? And if you schedule it out, that's the way that you appear to them. It's very key that way.
And we just had a question that talked about how expensive are they? Are they not expensive? What's the general price of a scheduling software like this?
Jill, I'm not sure if you have a little bit more info on this, but I know there are some free, I believe there are some free options and some lower priced options. It depends on what you're looking for in terms of analytics and the features that you're looking for.
Yeah, a lot of these actually have a free version. So as long as you have minimal amount of accounts that you're hooking up to them, you'll be able to get their free version. Hootsuite, I know for sure does. So you can actually look into setting up, I believe it's like 3 or less profiles that you attach to it, and it's free. And if you need to attach more, that's when you start paying. So you don't need to invest anything to get started.
Thanks. And so, the whole idea of social media is social. It's the kind of engagement back and forth. So Jill, can you talk a little bit about the engagement side of social and how to create that engagement?
Yeah, that's huge. So you've spent all this time putting out your content and creating this strategy and creating this beautiful grid. And some people are going to research you and they're going to find it and they're going to find you and they're going to interact. But a big way to get seen, if you don't want to invest in ads, which is of course another way to get your message out there as well, but this is about organic, so not paying for it. What you have to do on the back end, and a really big way to actually grow your social media presence, is to go on there and engage with other brands. So that means simply going into the app, logged into your business account, following people, commenting, liking. Every time you do that, the person on the other end of that account gets a notification. They'll take a look at that notification. They're going to go back to your page. They're going to go, who is this? Who's this business? A lot of the time, they're going to engage back with you. That's what happens online. Mm-hmm. It's, oh, they liked all my photos. That's really nice. They're going to go back to your profile. They're going to like some of your photos. And what that is actually going to end up doing, it's going to tell the Instagram algorithm, hey, this post is interesting. We're going to show it to more people because it's getting some likes on it. So the more time that you spend doing this, the more successful you're going to be on social media. It is really time consuming. There are bots out there that actually do this and engage on your behalf. I don't recommend them. They can get you booted off of Instagram. But in case you're wondering, any of those times that you've seen weird comments come in on your post that are almost irrelevant to what's going on, that might be a bot engaging. You're seeing big brands following and unfollowing you. That could be what's going on. But it's essentially what it's trying to do. It's trying to boost your engagement and get you more followers.
Cool. And then, like, Ty, do you have any examples of something like this? Like, what would it look like?
Oh, I do. So this is something that we actually offer through our service. And so what myself and my team does is we go in on behalf of our clients, and like Jill was saying, like, comment, follow, and engage with the audience. So what we do in particular is try and make sure that we're engaging in spots where our clients' target audience is going to be. So we want to make sure that we're not just liking and commenting on random posts. We're looking for for example, if the target audience of this client that we have here is women between the ages of 30 and 45, I'm going to be looking in specific hashtags that I think that group is likely to be frequenting. I'm going to follow certain accounts that I believe that group is going to be following, and try and interact there to get the name and the company in front of the right people, not just in front of more people. Because like we talked about earlier, getting it in front of 10 of the right people is better than getting it in front of just 1,000 people, right?
Yeah, you can go and you can engage on certain hashtags. So for my food blog, what I always go to is I look up hashtags like home cook. Like, oh, those people will want to see a recipe, most likely. So I will go in and I will start liking things under home cook. I don't need to worry about a geotag because I'm just trying to get people to see my content. But for you, you just have to think critically like that about what the hashtags are that are most relevant. Some of them could be a geotag and a combo. Like an example could be if you're in Calgary, YYC mom blog. If you're looking for that key target demographic, that might be a really good one to engage with. So just think outside the box of how you can find those people.
Great. So we are going to take some questions. We have about 10 minutes left. Before we do that, I do want to talk about the analytics side. Yeah. So if we could go to that, can you guys just talk a little bit about how do we know if this is working, and what does that look like? What tools can I use to know whether or not my whole strategy and everything is working the way I want it to?
Yeah, so that is also a big piece of this. Is you've done all of this work, you're engaging. What you want to do, and what I kind of talked about at the beginning, is you always want to check to see what's working, because what you might think is very really engaging and really interesting might not be landing with your audience. So you can actually go in. Instagram has its own analytics, which is why I urged you to make sure you set up a business profile. You can go into the back end of Instagram, you can check things out, and you can actually see stuff like, when are my followers online? What age group do they fall between? Where are most of them located? And then you can actually look at the content. And this is what I really focus in on, is which type of content that I'm posting is getting the most engagement, because that's really going to be a key in determining what type of content you should keep posting and what maybe you should shift. An example, again, back to my food blogs, when I first started it, I really thought I wanted to show off. I spent a lot of time kind of going like, oh, look what I can do. I'm going to post these really cool, intricate recipes. And what I realized over time was the content that worked the best was actually the easiest, simple recipes. Those were the ones that everybody was actually looking at and everybody cared about. So I completely switched my strategy after about, a few months of that. I went, you know what, I'm going to go back to the basics, because that's what people care about. And that's what I urge you to do as well on your social media is, if your staff photos are doing really well, keep posting more of those. Just kind of switch and tailor it, and just be cognizant, take the time to actually go back and review what you've done to make sure that everything you're doing moving forward is only going to get better.
Thank you. Taking over the next slide here, I do want to talk, just before we get to the questions, about next week. So today you've heard all about sort of building a social media program to kind of bolster your presence, leaving this COVID crisis. The next webinar we have in this series of 8 is with, I'm going to call him a legend. He's a very recent YouTube legend, Dr. Joseph Allen. He has, in about a year and a half, built up his YouTube subscriber list to 134,000 followers, and that is no easy feat. And so Joe and I are going to be online one-on-one, having a conversation regarding, what went into this in the beginning, what made you do this, how are you picking topics, to how do you create engaging videos. One of his videos right now has 850,000 views, and these are patient-facing videos. These are not B2B. And so he told me a story once about patients driving hours to come and see him because they trusted him based on the brand. So don't miss this. We're going to send out the registration email in a couple hours after this, and we'll start promoting this. But that is one webinar you do not want to miss. Next slide. So I also want to talk a little bit about our company, Marketing for ECPs. We are a digital agency, and I can say that probably the most difficult part of the last month have been the conversations that I've been having with our clients, just not being able to open and service patients and trying to deal with staff and what have you. So we actually launched a think tank series the last couple of weeks. We brought our clients together and started having these discussions. And what came from there is some great ideas that we are putting into place. And so we're launching these sort of COVID support programs, basically knowing that the world is going to be different. And we're committed to really supporting the industry and helping independent practitioners really kind of launch in this new world. And so we are, and stay tuned for this later this month, we're launching a new social media program. It's sort of an entry-level price point, but fantastic quality. We have a marketing membership program, which includes a website, videos, a social media library, an annual marketing plan. You work with Jill and 6 of her colleagues in terms of marketing directors that come up with a strategy, and we include all these great things. And then we're also putting together a relaunch digital marketing package so that when the doors open and you want to assure that you are busy, that there is kind of a social aspect of this. There's an e-blast, there's some marketing and advertising. So we're putting these things together. Stay tuned to our social and our e-blast. We will put more information out over the next few weeks, or you can go to our website, marketingforecps.com, request a demo, and we'll walk you through these as well. So just letting you know a little bit about us. Let's move to Q&A time now. So let's talk about, I'm just going to go here to pull one. So how about this one from Chuck? Do you use external software for text posts, or do you rely on Instagram app?
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit of both in my experience. Sometimes we'll use Photoshop. Another great one, like I mentioned, there is Canva. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. They have some great templates on there that allow you to post some creative stuff with your own, that you can add your own branding and colors to, and really set yourself apart in terms of the professionalism of your posts.
Yeah, canva.com, Chuck, is free and it's really easy to use. So definitely recommend it.
Cool. And I'm going to announce the first winner of the $100 gift card, and we will comment and talk to you personally on that. Melanie Rush, you are the first winner. And so we'll be announcing the other ones in between these questions. Congratulations. The next question comes from Trina. How often should you be posting?
I can answer that. So I would say, again, this goes back to quality over quantity. There isn't a magic number like there used to be. Really what you have to focus on a little bit more is the post going to do well? Is it going to resonate? Am I, saying the right thing? Obviously, if you can create more quality content, the better, but it's time consuming. So don't overstrain yourself trying to say something just to say it, just to post. Just make sure that everything you're going to post has a purpose. There is no answer to that, Trina. So a little bit sorry to disappoint you. Just do your best in actually providing value with every single post.
That's great. Ty, this question is for you, and it actually also comes from Trina. Is it bad to delete Instagram content that has already been published to help create that cohesive image?
Yeah, I think if you're posting something, you want to make sure that you keep it up there because it's a part of the grid. That being said, like if something significantly changes and there's something on there that isn't relevant anymore, it does live on there. So if you don't want that content anymore, it's your choice. You can delete it. And the great thing about social media is it does recycle fairly quickly if you're posting on a regular basis. So it will continue to move further down the grid. And if you just kind of keep posting that relevant content, it will get recycled. But I would try and keep your content up there as much as possible, especially if you're taking the time to organize that grid. It's amazing how deleting something out of the middle of a well-organized grid can really take a lot of time to get that grid looking back the way you want it. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
But yeah, to answer also, Trina, if you're thinking like you're trying to create the cohesive grid from the get-go and you're looking back at old posts that you're not proud of, in that instance, for sure, delete it. It's not being pushed out to a lot of people. So there's no harm.
The next winner of our Visa $100 gift card is Katie S. Katie S., you have won the second Visa gift card. The next question comes to us from Paul Clark. I've never been on Pinterest. Yeah, right, Paul. I don't know you, but I don't know. But is it a platform to post on? We actually know over 90% of Pinterest users are female. So Paul is probably right on this one. But what do you guys think? Is Pinterest a good one to be on?
I think that you could be. You have to really understand how Pinterest is working. So you have to be creating your own content that's going to be driving back to your website for Pinterest. So it would be a very unique strategy. It'll be a little bit more difficult to pinpoint your patients in your area to get them to come to you. But it's a really good place to post stuff like infographics that are educational. And they get out there and they get used and recycled. So it's a powerful platform, but you have to think about it in a little bit of a different way. And you have to be creating unique content. There isn't a lot of value if you're just going in there and you're repinning other people's stuff, because essentially that pin that you're repinning, if it gets clicked on, it leads to somebody else's website. So everything has some value to be there. The more you're showing up on any platform is fantastic, but don't overextend yourself. I would say pick one that is the easiest for you to manage and start there.
Yeah.
Great. The final winner of our Amazon gift card is Megan McCannis. So congratulations to Melanie, Katie, and Megan for winning. We are going to, so thank you for everybody for posting questions. Jill, Tyler, and I will be going on and answering those questions for you. So if you have more, continually post them. If you feel this was valuable, please share, tag people in it so that we can share that. Let's finish with just a couple more slides. I want to highlight again, and a big thank you to our posts, or our sponsor, J&J Vision, for this one. This is sort of the AccuView library, the COVID-19 hubs. You can go in there and grab. They have a hub dedicated to this. We have one on our website as well, marketingforecps.com. And so there are just some great resources out there. I've seen a lot of comments that other companies that are doing this as well. And so, big kudos to the entire industry for creating amazing content and getting that out for you guys. And then lastly, Jill, do you want to kind of take us home on this one?
Yeah, I just want to let you know that I am available. So if you have any questions and you want to talk to me and just want to learn more, feel free to contact me via email. My email is up here. And then that's just the link to access all of these great resources that we have. So thank you.
And we're going to take this webinar, we're going to post it on that page as well as the presentation. So if there are things in here that you'd like, we will post a version of the presentation so you can download it for yourself. Thank you to everybody for attending. We'll see you next Wednesday with Dr. Joseph Allen, and stay safe, everyone, and have a great day.